June 1944. Normandy, Europe was in flames, while thousands of soldiers were dying on the beaches. Inside a closed Allied command room, Dwight Eisenhower faced a danger that could have cost the war not Hitler, not the Nazis, but the ego of a single general. What happened in that meeting had been kept secret for decades. Until now. Eisenhower did not lose his temper in anger. He lost his patience with ego, and by doing so, he saved the greatest military alliance in history, because in the end, wars are not won by men who want to be remembered. They are won by leaders who know when to silence an ego, to save millions of lives. What you are about to hear does not appear in official speeches. It is not taught in military academies, and it is rarely mentioned. When people talk about the Allied victory in World War I, yet there was one specific day when the greatest military alliance in history stood on the brink of collapse, not because of Hitler, not because of the Nazis, but because of a man within the Allied command itself. That day had no gunfire, no bombs, no headlines. It took place inside a closed room, and it ended with a silence that changed the course of the war. For years, Dwight David Eisenhower was known as the most patient man in the Allied High Command. Calm, diplomatic, almost political in nature, he did not shout. He did not humiliate. He did not explode. His greatest skill was not winning battles, but keeping together men who disliked one another, competed for glory, and clashed over pride while millions died across Europe. Among all those men, none was more difficult to control than Bernard Montgomery. Montgomery, incapable de commander. His victory at El Alamein in North Africa had altered the course of the war against Germany. The British press turned him into a national hero. His name became a symbol of discipline, intelligence, and victory. Soldiers admired him. Politicians protected him. Newspapers praised him, but away from the cameras, Montgomery was something else entirely. Arrogant, self-assured, absolutely convinced that he was the smartest man in the war. He made no effort to hide his contempt for American generals. In meetings, he spoke like a teacher addressing ignorant students. He interrupted colleagues, dismissed suggestions, and treated opposing views as a waste of time. In his eyes, Americans had resources, manpower, and brute force, but not intellect. Eisenhower saw all of this. Accounts from officers close to him reveal that Ike, as he was known, often left meetings exhausted. Not because of strategic complexity, but because of the constant effort required to restrain Montgomery's ego. Still, he endured it. Because he knew the alliance with Britain was vital. Because he understood that internal division could cost them the war. That fragile balance began to crack after D-Day. In June 1944, the Allies landed in Normandy. The initial success was historic, but it quickly gave way to a harsh reality. The Germans were still dangerous, organized, and capable of striking back. Every strategic decision at that moment could save or cost thousands of lives. Eisenhower advocated for a broad, coordinated advance, pressing the Germans on multiple fronts at once. The idea was simple: deny the enemy rest or regrouping. Montgomery rejected this approach. He insisted on a single, bold, high-risk plan that would place nearly all strategic control in his hands. A concentrated thrust through northern Europe, crossing the Netherlands and driving straight into Germany. According to Montgomery, this move could shorten the war by months. It was not merely a strategic disagreement. It was a struggle for power. Montgomery wanted to prove, once and for all, that he was the true architect of Allied victory. That plan became known as Operation Market Garden. Market Garden was presented as brilliant. Montgomery assured Allied leaders that German forces were weakened, disorganized, and incapable of serious resistance. Intelligence reports warning of German armored divisions in the area were ignored or downplayed. To Montgomery, doubt was cowardice. Eisenhower hesitated. But under political pressure, the hope of ending the war quickly, and excessive confidence in optimistic reports, he authorized the operation. The result was catastrophic. Airborne troops were cut off. German forces responded with speed and brutality. The famous attempt to seize the bridge at Arnhem ended in disaster. Thousands of Allied soldiers were killed or captured. The war, instead of accelerating, stalled. Then came the most shocking moment of all. Montgomery refused to accept responsibility. In internal reports, he minimized the failure. In private conversations, he blamed American shortcomings, logistical delays, and decisions beyond his control. Publicly, he even claimed that the operation had been 90% successful to Eisenhower. This was more than arrogance. It was disrespect for the dead. Not long after, a meeting was called. This was no ordinary meeting. The top Allied commanders were present. The atmosphere was heavy. Officers avoided eye contact. Everyone knew Market Garden had been a grave mistake, but no one wanted to confront Montgomery. Until Eisenhower spoke, according to eyewitness accounts. He sat silently for several seconds, hands clasped, staring directly at Montgomery. When he finally spoke, his voice was not loud. It was not aggressive. It was controlled, but it carried something new, a boundary. He stated that no victory justified dividing the alliance, that no general was greater than the collective effort, that strategic errors cost lives and had to be acknowledged, not disguised to protect reputations. Montgomery attempted to respond. He began to explain, to justify, to redirect blame. Eisenhower cut him off. That simple, rare gesture froze the room. Officers later said they could feel the precise moment when power shifted. Eisenhower made it clear that from that day forward, major strategic decisions would no longer be concentrated in a single voice. Montgomery would remain a general. He would remain respected. But he would no longer operate with unrestricted authority. His role would be supervised. His dominance reduced. There was no formal punishment, no public humiliation, no headlines. But within the Allied command, Montgomery had been neutralized. In the months that followed, critical decisions were led by other commanders. Montgomery rarely commanded major operations on his own. His name remained famous, but his real influence was gone. He realized, too late, that he had crossed an invisible line. Eisenhower never spoke ill of him in public. He maintained his diplomatic posture to the end. But in his memoirs, he made it clear that meeting was one of the hardest and most necessary decisions of the war. Germany was defeated in 1945. Europe was liberated. History recorded great battles, great leaders, and great victories, but that day, in that room, proved something fundamental.